I'm Paul, and I'm the author of the Atheist Handbook, and I just wanted to respond to your review of my series. I'm glad that you had an open mind enough to listen to the entire series. I'm sure that took you quite a while. The fact that you're still an atheist, well, I'm sorry about that. But like I said in the forefront of my series on iTunes is that I don't really go into it trying to convert an atheist, but rather equip a Christian with information they need to talk to an atheist. You did call me an idiot, which I'm not, but the starving kids in other countries, I didn't actually say that they were starving because they weren't Christian. I just said that there were correlations between the statistics of the countries that were not Christian and the ones that were starving, and the ones that were not starving and the ones that are Christian. You said science, you quoted me saying that science is flawed. I don't think science is flawed. I never said that science was flawed. I think the theory of evolution is flawed. You and everyone else who's ranted and raved about my series have all said how I'm an idiot and how wrong my scientific conclusions are, but yet you nor anyone else who's criticized me has yet to bring a shred of evidence of their own to disprove any of my scientific arguments, thus proving to me that they really are good arguments. Okay, you say I used the famous argument of how can something come out of nothing? And then you say, oh, I have a great idea. I found something that's so obvious that comes out of nothing. Babies. Babies come out of nothing. Sperm and egg are essentially nothing, which is so far from the truth. You obviously don't understand the human reproductive system, but sperm and egg are incredibly complex. You're essentially saying something to the effect of, the Hubble telescope, it just appeared in outer space and it came out of nothing. Well, you wouldn't say that because you understand how complex the Hubble telescope is. And every sperm and every egg contains millions of strands of DNA. So small, yet so complex. More complex than any computer system, any man-made machine, any space orbiting satellite, any space station, anything. Nothing man has made can touch the complexity of a sperm and an egg. Even the most complex microprocessors that humans can make, as small as we can get, they can't do anything compared to what one strand of DNA can do. And the fact that the human reproductive system is so complex and yet it's so small, and that testifies to how big my God is, that he can make something so small yet contains so much information. So to say that babies come out of nothing is really ignorance. You go on to say, I have no sense of time, that evolution happens over billions and billions of years, and you say, I don't understand what I'm talking about. Okay, explain to me what I don't understand about evolution. Answer a few of these questions that I have about evolution. If a baby is, quote, in your words, nothing, and it goes from being conceived, where the sperm and egg join, which are two nothings joining together to form something, but they're, anyway, to being born, to growing up and dying in the course of, let's say, 115 years since the world's oldest woman just died. What took evolution billions of years to make what an entire lifespan does in 100 years? Explain that. Now, if a premature baby, question 2, if a premature baby born before, let's say, 25 weeks old cannot live on its own, how in the world did these cells that are evolving into the most complex thing ever, human beings, how did they live on their own for billions of years in an environment or a universe that was unformed and undeveloped, essentially chaos? How did that work exactly? Question 3. What did the first cells evolve into, man or woman? And did the process have to happen twice? So essentially wait billions of years for a man and billions of years for a woman? Or did this evolutionary process occur randomly 2 times? So something mathematically and statistically impossible, evolution, did it happen twice to create a man and a woman? Anyway. 4. Why has evolution stopped? Why don't we see any evidence of interspecies evolution? Are humans going to evolve into something even better than we are now? Like in the series Heroes, are we going to be able to like heal and form like special powers to move objects with our mind and things like that? Are we evolving into something like that? In a billion years, will we be able to fly? 5. Why isn't there any evidence proving evolution? You can't prove that evolution exists. Darwin didn't even have evidence of interspecies evolution. He had theories. That's all he had. You go on to say, most religions are outright lies. You didn't offer any proof at all to back that up at all. And you just made some blanket statement calling, 98% of the world idiots. You go on to say, if I get a dog, it's my responsibility to take care of the dog. It's God's responsibility to take care of the world. And he's doing a bad job of it, so he's a bad God. The problem is, if you buy a dog, it's your responsibility to take care of the dog as long as the dog submits to your authority. If the dog runs away and never comes back, and the dog gets hit by a car and dies, is it your fault the dog ran away? I mean, sure, you could put a cage around it, lock it up, chain it to a fence, but then that wouldn't be very fair to the dog either. But if you give the dog the right to go outside and play and do things, and the dog runs away of its own accord and never comes back and gets killed, is it your fault? You say that some atheists don't want to believe, and you want to believe. But then you talk about fairies and pink unicorns, and it sounds like you're just really skeptical of the whole God thing. And based on your skeptical attitude, it doesn't really seem like you want to believe it. It seems like you're mainly looking for a reason not to believe. By comparing God to fairies and pink unicorns and not giving yourself a chance to understand the purpose of God, the meaning of God, what God really does in the world, and why God would have created humans. And it just doesn't sound like you really want to believe. You have a problem with God revealing himself or not revealing himself. God reveals himself to those who seek him. As long as you criticize God and insult him and don't seek him, he will never reveal himself to you. If you don't believe in God, even if he did reveal himself to you, you wouldn't believe. Jesus tells a story in the Gospels about a rich man and Lazarus. The rich man doesn't do anything to help Lazarus his entire life, just scorns him. He sits out his front gate, begs for food, doesn't give him anything. And Lazarus dies, goes to heaven. Rich man dies, goes to hell. The rich man says to Lazarus and Abraham up in heaven, please send someone to my family to tell them so that they can change. And Lazarus goes, they've been told. They know everything they need to know. Even if a man rose from the dead to tell them that God exists, they won't believe. So even if God revealed himself in the flesh to you, if you don't want to believe, if you aren't seeking God, you won't believe anything. Even if God revealed himself to you. Okay, so you list a bunch of these things and you say they're not love. There are rules to life. And since God designed life, God gets to design the rules. And his rules are good and they're perfect. And they will help us live better lives. Your parents have rules for you that help you live a better life. But essentially, God makes rules for us, not because he wants to take away our free will, or not because he wants to take away our joy or excitement in life. He gives us rules because he wants us to enjoy life. As Jesus said, I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. How you interpret God or how you see God is more like an abusive relationship. And it's not love, but if you understood, especially that statement about how God slaughtered his own son for no reason, that's not love. To understand sacrifice, for a parent to give a child in order to save thousands, millions, billions of people, and the fact that God sacrificed his son, Jesus, so that everyone else can be forgiven of their sins, is the greatest form of love. And Jesus willingly took it upon himself because he loved us. He came to set us free. So you may have read it all, you may have said you had an open mind, but until you really open your mind to the idea of God and what God can do in your life and truly seek him, you're never going to find him.